He's a legit internet thing.
All right, hey, we're actually on the air now. I'm going to click here to start this audio. And hey, welcome to the Shed for Adventures from the Shed. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com, on iTunes, Facebook, Stitcher Radio, Google+, Bing, and as of right now, anybody who's actually paying attention is going to see us on YouTube. The event was officially starting at 10:30, but this is also as part of this event. It shows up in Google+ and Twitter feeds as soon as the scheduled time hits. But for now, we're all here, and we can see you if you join us on the Google Facebook page. We're here. We're just going to start talking. Once we see we have a couple of viewers, we might be able to converse with them.
We'll pull back.
Are we trying to keep?
We will.
Are we trying to pay attention to the feed if anybody's adding questions later, or the chat?
For the YouTube one, somebody should, but otherwise we can all see the group chat there on the monitor. Now for us, let's just say a quick hi.
Quick hi.
Quick hi.
Quick hi from JJ.
There's a little bit of a lag.
Hey,
there's and this is
Chris.
Chris, and I'm Joe. We are here for our 3rd anniversary episode. Technically, it was September 9th. Today is the 10th, but it was the 9th. Our first episode went up 3 years ago. So yay for us. Yay.
I think you didn't clap. I think we should compare ourselves to people who didn't last as long as us.
Britney Spears.
She only lasted 2 years. 3 years.
You're talking about as a semi-career?
Yeah.
Like
we're
Blame it on the rain.
2.25 years longer than I thought we would make it.
Yeah, it's 3 years would be what? A whole lot of days and like 5 minutes longer than I would have made it.
Yeah.
Made it. Did it.
I mean,
Mickey got it.
We have a minor, we basically have one rotating seat that's been changing along the way, but otherwise,
yeah,
4 of us are here.
So
and now that we have the Bald Wonder, I mean, we will have another 3 years with the same cast.
We do. Would somebody mind on your device? We're going to bring up our Facebook stuff, so we have some of those comments from the from our listeners that we can check into soon.
Hey Joe, should I watch out for this cable here?
Gosh, yes, Kurt, please don't. I mean, don't even give it a dirty look. Please. Actually, don't look at it at all.
I just moved my chair and it went flying. It's
Don't even think about it.
Yeah. Chris knows the delicacy where that is plugged into that monitor over there.
I have to start kind of.
No cable. There is no cable. That's what it is.
Sure to agree.
Plugged in and unplugged
Yeah,
at the same time.
you don't know. There is no.
Where should I be looking for it, Joe?
So we have, I don't know, 3 posts or so out there that some people have replied to.
I guess you would have to.
No, I think I'm the only one.
Yeah, I got it up at the top of my feed because I do show Adventures from the Shed post first.
Do you? Dude, you rock.
Well,
this is why you're quick to like those, like Chris is too.
Yeah, I see it first.
Yeah.
Remember though, I don't use Facebook for
No,
anything other than role-playing games.
Much anymore myself.
Hey Joe, can you turn me down? Oh.
I really don't want to do it with you, Kurt. So
Wait, can I watch? What happened?
he wants to be turned down.
It took me back to my junior high.
I think you're plugged in.
Yeah, I'm way too.
3.
Turned down for
All right,
what?
how about this? How about that? Still all right? Is that good? All right. It's about to go to 1 because I just connected to it. Just to make sure. And that happened that half a minute ago.
Oh yeah, 34 seconds.
All right.
Here we go.
No, I can have it.
Where are we going?
Sure
Adventurize
can.
black holes
It
going on,
probably
Joe?
could be. So actually, I can open up the live chat here too, just so we have that open, so in case we see something. Yeah.
I somehow managed
Turn the
to
volume
connect
To the
to
Hangout?
the Hangout. I didn't mean to. I
Yeah.
apologize.
We may have hit the YouTube, the Hangout link instead of the YouTube link.
Maybe.
I'm just gonna stand up and I'm gonna watch out for this thing that's on the floor here.
Good job.
Oh my God! Kurt, son of a...
God, Kurt.
So of course this is definitely going to be a visual episode. So for Anyone who wants to witness the Mr. Schumacher, he is here in all of his
All of my
glory.
glory.
The visual pleasing is not guaranteed, folks.
And now, I want to make one point here. What JJ's the most colorful one in the room today. We're all gray. JJ's got.
We got all four of us are great.
Yeah.
What happened?
We knew we were going to be on camera.
Yeah.
And Mickey wore her biker's jacket.
Oh, yeah.
She is our house angel.
But she's also a little bit cold today.
It's cold
Yeah.
out there.
And I also, just for the sake of background noise, I have the air conditioner off while we do this. So it's going to get nice and
It should
toasty in
be
here for a little while.
pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably just open the door. I don't know if that would mess
It would definitely mess with light.
It's
But
a-
we have
we
steady
love-
light this way.
We love our fans because if we were not recording today, we'd be sitting outside playing because it is as glorious as it gets in South Carolina
Ooh.
today.
Yeah.
Very nice.
75, perfect blue skies.
Crystal clear, man.
I love it.
So, what are we doing on our third year? Do we want to do anything new or different?
I think we did the Curse of Strahd.
I guess I mean fourth, sorry.
How about we
Coming up.
actually play this time?
Oh, really? That'd be pretty cool.
That would be novel.
Yeah. We could actually play a game.
I don't want to start.
What we're going to do for our fourth year.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think might be coming up?
I want to DM 13th Age for a little bit,
13th age? That'd be
which is
neat.
very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. Very similar, but it has some cool stuff, and I want to try it.
That was 13th age, one of the ones on Facebook? It almost sounds familiar.
I don't know.
Dragon Age, yes, and age in it.
I would totally do Dragon Age too, but I've already got the 13th Age books, and it was created by I think the 3.5 and 4E, a couple of guys from Wizards of the Coast who have to kind of tweak the game and do it the way they want to do it.
Ah, okay. They, I did play Dragon Age a little bit in a separate game. I don't remember what it was. Maybe 5 or 6 sessions. And I thought there was a starter box for it because I felt like that's what we played. And it was neat. There's just some weird, well, of course, any new system has weird stuff in it. But there was, it felt like there were weird mechanics around things like magic and what have you. But it would definitely be cool to try. And I know we can't because and I actually grabbed that kind of starter book. And I think it's probably similar to the 5th edition starter set, where it's probably just like a 30-page condensed rule book. And I believe that would be a good thing to try.
I know that world really well from the video games, but I don't know the RPG mechanics at all. But I love that world.
Cool.
I know a little bit from the game.
I can't find Thor.
What about you, Mickey? Aside from the what half joke of let's play a game, what do you think you might want to try?
I'd like to try something different. I would like to see Pathfinder again, maybe a short one-off on Pathfinder. Get into that mechanic again and enjoyed it. I'd like to see that high school monster RPG.
Yeah, that's the
Monster
Stranger
Hearts.
Things thing. I was like, I'm sold because when that show came out, I was like, this was made for me.
Right?
High
Was it that
School
one?
Monster.
Yeah.
Monster Hearts, I think it's called.
Monster Hearts.
As well, doing the whole thing.
Anything where we get to play the teenagers is good.
Yeah.
We're all basically
I was gonna say it's more fun than
Yeah, I mean, I
or
don't,
3-year-old lawyer financial advisor.
I don't think I've ever matured past like 18, 19 years old. So
Yeah, we should do it.
That'd be pretty cool. What about you, JJ? What do you think?
I'm actually enjoying the Justin Files,
Mhm.
and we'll probably be playing that for
It's
Going
our
into the
current
fourth year.
campaign, definitely.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good one.
and then I don't know. I mean, I'd like to keep exploring new systems, and I'm torn because I would like to try for a longer running campaign where we can have character development and but I also like trying the new stuff
Yeah.
and
Characters,
We
like the
tried
same
doing
core characters,
Well, we switched
Personality.
systems.
Transform them to
and just change the systems.
It could be. That might be something worth.
so like when Martin Lawrence went into the Camelot
Yeah, exactly.
So playing the same character from Urban Fantasy now
Just
back in Renaissance
Adapt it.
times.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's see
Sure.
where it goes.
All right, Mickey's got a new idea. Is this can leaking? How much is that?
It was double shot. Couldn't handle it.
Couldn't handle it. Chris, you were going to say something before?
I wouldn't mind tossing Cyberpunk in the file only because I haven't played it in forever.
Yeah.
It's fun and easy, you know.
I would love to do that.
Something different.
No, Cyberpunk, the way you were playing, is it post-apocalyptic or kind of just modern?
Well, I mean, the original, which is weird now because the original Cyberpunk is year dated 2020, which is 3 years away now, so
Yeah.
nothing's really crazy. So yeah, we might have to forward the tech levels aren't as crazy.
Were you playing Shadowrun or were you playing Cyberpunk?
Yeah, I didn't do.
So almost like Steam Cyberpunk or Cyber Steampunk because that technology is now old.
Right, yeah.
That's interesting.
You know, the next, The Witcher 3 has been this huge fantasy video game the last few years, and they're the company that made that, their next game, which will probably be 5 years away, but it's going to be a Cyberpunk. So cool.
That is cool.
When I hear talk about video games, we're talking about tabletop games. See, this
I know, but
Yeah.
seriously, it's all my fantasy universe. It all blends into one.
Now, I get to a little bit of Kurt's credit. He does mention ones that were or are tabletop
Yeah.
RPG. Not all the time.
Another tabletop game, I don't know how much time we'll have, but the other game that I'd love to play at some point, and I have the book for it, is Knights Black Agents, which is by
Hellbrain
Press, who
yeah.
does the Cthulhu games and some other good things. And it's a game, but it's like particular fighters.
That sounds awesome.
I know.
It's so the lore in it is so awesome.
So does it take place in the 40s? Or?
I don't know. The adventures may move over time, but it certainly starts. I'm getting some crackle. Are you hearing that?
It's you. Take that and just put it on the table in front of you.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it more. But
Okay.
what I've read of it looks awesome.
That's very cool. I think one of the things I do want to try at some point, and maybe we do it this year, is that idea of continuing characters, because that would give us a chance to develop characters and try different systems if we want to.
So the only
definitely cool.
we can still play with it. The only downside to
You sure could.
play with it anywhere, anytime. So you could have the same character, like let's have I create a sorcerer that I like and move through different systems playing the closest thing to the sorcerer.
Mhm.
But one of the things I like about different games is trying different classes and totally different mechanics. We can also play where you keep the same personality, powers change, and you become different classes if you want to as you move to different games.
Right.
But keep the same personality.
Yeah.
Might be kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You might want to stay with the same character exactly, and I might want to switch, and that'd be fun.
now, I don't know the series as well as I should to mention this, but is it like Quantum Leap? You just end up in a different body, but you're still the same person?
Yeah, like
That
I
show.
don't know that show.
I'm
well.
sorry, that was like probably a pre-Kurt.
I remember it. I just didn't
Not
watch
that
it.
I'm that much older.
I'm
But yeah,
gonna watch
I
it.
thought the premise of it was he just, he popped through
Yeah.
time and space or whatever, showed up into somebody else to help them out of a situation or anything. But he still had his own memories and what have you.
It's not a
So
bad
it could
idea.
even be something like that. What we could call it, kind of soul journey. That goes along with you, but you end up you could even end up in different bodies, different classes, all that stuff. Right? It could be neat.
We have to really make sure we make characters that we like. The character you most want to play.
Personality wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you could still screw around with classes the
Exactly.
whole time.
That could be interesting.
German dungeon form. I think that would be a.
It's a big leap for you.
Why?
A quantum leap.
I'd like to see Ferris from the 5th edition starter set with like a minigun in Cyberpunk. No spells, just blow the crap out of everything. Yeah.
Who
That'd
was
be kinda neat.
who was the curry eating guy?
Strong Don?
Strong Don. I didn't-
Strong Don.
Yeah, we got Strong Don
Yeah.
through the ages too.
That would be pretty
Ripping
cool.
through the ages.
Oh, hey, Derek Olson is watching us on YouTube. He says, good morning, everyone. Hey, good morning, Derek.
Hey, Derek.
If you want to throw anything in that chat, any questions you have, just let us know. Of course, if you saw that Google Hangout link, you can click there and you can talk to us live if you'd like to. However you'd like to handle it. But hey, good morning. Glad to see you out there. So we'll continue there with anybody that could figure out how Facebook works and maybe find one of Derek's posts if he has any.
Do a Halloween episode.
Yeah, I want to do a Halloween episode, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to do with it this year. Of course, 2 years ago, so 2015 was the whole video production, which, by the way, I still love it. I go back and look at that just because it was so much fun to do, and I had to put a lot into the post production on it, of course, with all the green screen and what have you. But it still amazes me that essentially we recorded in here in the spot that we have. But then we record in front of a green screen in about the same amount of space, and it still feels bigger because, you know, green screen's cool. But that was a blast. And then last year, with the Cthulhu one, I added some sound effects, but it was all just audio. So for 2018, we should definitely, you know, throw some things around, see how I want to do it.
How would we do it?
I don't know.
I mean, I hire a special effects like exactly. Lightsaber films or something.
That would be cool.
There you go.
Just pull out LARP.
We could. I mean,
that's the line that I've never wanted to cross, but I really want Halloween.
I wonder what we could do, like something in the backyard here. It was like teams trying to take over the shed outside or something like that. Make it a little castle.
We can have some NPCs.
And I've got some of the weapon things around, so
yeah, I can borrow some foam swords.
There you go. I actually have a couple of the foam swords. So yeah, I got one
You
from my
can
Halloween
throw it up
costume
and
last year. Exactly.
Shout out to the boffers.
Hey, Boffa. So with that too, special episodes. What else do we do? Well, what about this year's Christmas episode? Should we do anything special for holiday episode?
It's always good to work one into whatever we're playing at the point in time.
It's good to work one in.
Kurt's always looking to work one in. Kurt,
Every
did you
single
think
thing I said
I aged since the last time we played? I'm still 12.
I'm going to say, hey, I need to type on my computer and do it. Type on your computer. Please sit here.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway.
So
Holiday episode. Yeah, what kind of thing do you think we'd do?
Like another game.
Do we do well? We will based on the current calendar year. We are still going to be in Dresden Files. Therefore, we can just have it be Christmas in the Upstate, and we just find ways to work in things that we see around. And Chris, up near
craziness at the Bookmore House or something.
up near Charlotte, you can see what's going on over there, and we can try and incorporate that kind of stuff in that too. That'd be kind of neat.
Did we
Outdoor
decide on
displays
the
and things
title?
like that. For
the campaign.
not yet. That's the thing that keeps messing with me. I haven't thought of a title for it. Hey, that's an idea. Hey, Derek, I see you have a post or a chat up here. He has a question for Kurt. Kurt, this is how Derek talks, by the way. He has my voice.
Okay.
It seems your characters have been less in.
It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
Stop drinking.
That's definitely part of it. That is probably part of it. Unfortunately, that's not going to change, hopefully, so I've got to work with that. I had a little bit of a hard time with Strahd because I love that adventure and I like playing with JJ, and I think this is not just a challenge that our group had. I think it's a challenge a lot of people have with that adventure, which is, it's supposed to be this gothic horror tense thing, and we tend to devolve into humor, at almost any moment, and we did during that campaign, and I think a lot of groups have, which I think made it a little hard for me to get into the campaign, but also into my character, who was supposed to be this like really dark, tormented monster hunter.
Little cut myself in the corner kind of guy.
Exactly. So I probably set up kind of the wrong character from the get-go for that campaign. And then this campaign, I actually feel very involved in this one in terms of enjoying it and being engaged, and having played on a little bit of a loner, at least to start with. But I think that he'll get integrated into the group as we go along here. So I'm not particularly worried about Jamie. I definitely was unhappy with the way I played Thielen and Strahd, and hopefully that was a one-time thing.
And Derek, if that doesn't answer your question, I'm happy to prod Kurt along further. JJ, could I ask you, because I don't want Kurt to even think about that cable, can you, I think the camera is slowly tilting back. Can you kind of just tilt it forward, like the lights are coming
It looks
in?
like the actual stand. And
Oh, the whole stand is, what, the stand, JJ, not the camera, the stand. Sorry.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
Well, then
so
while
that was me.
and while these jokers do this, Derek, you know, the other thing
Maybe
is,
lift it from the back too.
I think I'll just wait for that.
Sorry.
technical
I thank you, Mr. Stevens. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, Joe was half joking, but I've been over the last year in the process of quitting drinking. And there's no doubt that when I drink more at the shed than elsewhere because I think it loosens you up and it just makes it easier to chat and be goofy. I'm going to make a little bit of be myself and be open without relying on that crutch. So
It's hard to do. It's really hard to be yourself on air while you're doing this type of
well, I think everyone just has a little bit
JJ.
more.
Pull it forward too.
I was going to mount this underneath.
Whatever works.
He said mountain. Everyone has a little bit more of a natural filter, and alcohol helps get rid of that filter for better and for worse. And I don't drink all that much, but I have tended to drink a fair amount at the shed, and I just don't want to do that going forward. So,
Yeah, on the plus side, Chris brought something else to drink today, so that's awesome.
right, I'm doing the
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, keeping the don't break the chain. So I gotta
All right.
get my extra no booze today.
So now, if that's going to hold, just tilt the camera down now. Just from the camera itself, from the top.
Look at that, man. There you go.
Oh,
Oh. Close back.
Now, where's Derek? Where's Derek from?
That's a good question. Hey, Derek, if you don't mind, where are you from? I think you're from the U.S., but maybe what state? See if you can go down a little bit again there, JJ.
What's that?
Down a little bit too. So the clock is right near the top of it. That way we get Kurt and you better in the shot. Characters. Does any of us have a favorite character from this past year?
I lose track of what's in what year, to be honest.
Well, just think about what your favorite character was in almost recent memory. How about that?
ha!
There we go, James.
I mean,
Well
for me,
done.
it's because I came in, kind of like last minute to the Star campaign,
Yeah.
playing Mr. Joshua, which was fun, but like you, we didn't really get to dive into the character development for those because of the way we ran the campaign. So I'm liking Victor, the character from the Dresden Files, because he's I don't know. He's
The character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Derek and people who are listening, another thing, kind of in JJ's defense, because we don't want to crap on Strahd, but we're taking when you take a D&D published adventure, these 5th edition adventures are huge, and I mean you could play them over the course of the year. We intentionally limit our campaigns to about 30 to 35 episodes, so JJ or whoever's DMing has to cut a lot out and has to keep it moving very quickly in order to hit the high points of what's in that published adventure. And so I think that's a challenge for any DM to take the time for character building while also trying to really kind of race through a huge
Well,
adventure.
especially with the podcast, like in order to keep everybody on track and to have what I would call an action-packed adventure, trying to maximize the most of our 1 hour chunks of time. I told you guys ahead of time what I expected you to do. So if that ruined the Strahd campaign for anyone, I you hit this point and this plot point, this episode.
Yeah. Now, I think to Kurt's point, one of the things that ruined it was Tila kept tapping his staff, and that was,
Yeah, he never broke it either.
exactly.
He did spend a lot of time by himself tapping his staff.
So we talked about a little bit earlier about developing characters, and one of the things I think would be worth trying is let's see how serious we can be for a few episodes. And of course, I'm one of the most guilty because I just keep sticking it in there. But if we can try, I don't know, maybe we go from 75% joking and 25% serious to at least half and half.
Well,
Somewhere
somewhere
around
that's
there.
not an issue. Like the Miami, when we were playing the Miami, I mean,
That was.
Yeah.
It had to be big and comical in order for that one
But
to
for
work.
stuff like Strahd, it should be very serious.
Yeah.
And some of it was, I think.
There were some funny things, like they threw in little following.
I kept thinking of them as headstones, but they were like plaques.
Yeah.
And crypts, right?
But even some of the stuff you did with the angel running the abbey, and it's like freak people. I mean, there's a little. It was
A little
serious,
doll head.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of comicalness, and
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done. Especially that guy, the way he played that angel. Yeah, he was a super freak,
Yeah.
and he came off like, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is the way I am,
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm good to go with it. Holy shit, it was very freaky.
Thank you.
Super freaky.
And another thing that started, I guess it was a character thing for me, but it started half joking, but then it just caught on, was the Go Paylord thing, which somebody did mention on Facebook that they found it really annoying at first, but then it stuck. And so, and it was
That's
Go
how humor
Paylord.
works.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's proselytizing.
At first it's humorous,
Yeah.
then it's annoying, and then it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah. So, Kurt, I showed it to you so you could say something, but he's from Minnesota, eh? Which is like Canadian.
I was gonna say it's like whiskey.
All right.
I don't know. I can't even do a South Carolina accent. So.
Derek says, has any of you heard of the Palladium system? He's been playing it since the mid-90s and still play. I actually have the Palladium RPG. So, yes, I have played that one.
Yeah, I played
It's kind of
Robotech and
Yeah, same company.
and what else?
I actually think I have the Robotech one as well.
I always thought that it was kind of, and maybe we weren't doing it right back in the day, but it seemed like it was very,
Cumbersome.
yes, like where it almost seems like any attack, like if I can make 10 attacks on you, you can get 10 chances to dodge all that. And it's like, man, it's like combat's at 3 hours. What do you do yet? It's like 5 minutes of combat. It's like 3 hours gone by.
That was actually one of the systems that introduced me to that concept back, as he mentioned, in the 90s. It was probably earlier that I played, but the idea that you don't have to have a static AC. You can actually have active defense. I'm like, I like that, because instead of me just saying, I know I'm always going to hit if someone gets a 17 or higher, I'm always going to get hit. It's like, well, I actually have a chance. That was a cool idea. And it made shit take a long time.
I'm not sure I'm okay with the post rolls. I don't. For me, it feels like, it's almost like you roll well,
Yeah.
and then someone just kind of snatches it out of your jaws of victory.
But if it's the player snatching that hit away, it usually feels good.
Yeah.
So I did reverse attacks for a while. I can't remember if we did it in here or
For
not.
4th edition.
Yes, for 4th edition, where rather than me as the DM rolling against an AC, I had a player roll to see if they rolled high enough to not get hit. And it was the same base 10 system, it's just you kind of reverse things around.
Yeah.
But that way, the players stay involved even when it's not their turn. So if the NPC is attacking somebody, you're not an initiative for players, but the player still has to make a roll.
Is Palladium a system or a world?
It is a system.
Yeah, you can do multiple. Like there's a Robotech thing, there's a fantasy.
Yeah. But the Palladium RPG, I have that book. I'll bring it out some medieval fantasy. Yeah, the same as what we play.
Yeah, we ended up taking like pieces of that. Like my older brother would do. Everybody's got their home rules, right? They trade, and we would use parts of that for D&D, where you could kind of like do more like a duelist. Well, that guy technically could hit me, but I'm gonna make my roll, but then I'm at severe minuses just to try to like defend with whatever weapon I'm using. But yeah, I wouldn't want to do it all the time though. Like JJ said, it's kind of silly. Which like I thought like Palladium was like I could dodge everything you threw at me. That's takes forever.
Right. Last week I was a guest over on Mike's podcast, The Dungeoneers, and it was the annual Dwarven Fighting episode, and we did opposed rolls, and it was actually super fun.
Yeah.
So you attack, and then the person has a chance to counter it or whatever.
But that's a little more simple, playing in Dungeon World type rules.
It was very simple, but it was fun.
Yes.
Hey, there's something I was going to say. I listen to a bunch of gaming podcasts, and one of the ones I like had an episode this last week on writing and playing one-shot adventures, like worlds, that I've been interested in but haven't picked up. So that might be something to try for a one-shot.
Is Savage Worlds is not a 3.5 and Pathfinder?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It's one of those, though, that was adapted to the virtual tabletops, I think, kind of early on.
Yeah.
Like Fantasy Grounds, I think Savage Worlds is
Yeah.
a big thing there.
I think you can skin it however you want, I think.
If I remember right, which I probably don't, it was one of the first ones that you could kind of get PDFs and stuff for free for the game.
Oh.
So it became popular in that way, going on virtual tabletops and being able to get the game without a huge cost.
I know something else I've enjoyed this year, speaking of PDFs, because they're putting out new PDF adventures for the one-on-one, what is it called? The Call of Cthulhu?
Confidential.
Cthulhu Confidential,
That's-
which I know you guys weren't involved in, but Joe and I have done.
Yeah.
We did one, which I think we put up on the website, the Dex Raymond adventure, and then we played most of the second adventure. And I've really, mechanically it's different, but also the vibe of playing just with two people, you have to be in everything. You know, you can't take a breather. You
There's
can't
never a dull moment for any player.
Can't check your phone. And I think the Hellgang Press has done a really nice job with writing on that.
I wouldn't mind, like, you know, mentioned in one of the posts for this was any of the Cthulhu stuff, even chaos and stuff.
Yeah,
I miss
exactly.
playing. Like Cthulhu was fun back then when we played it, and we played like kind of like right after World War I kind of time frame. So everything was not really any technology, and the supernatural was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think that might be something worth exploring for another Halloween episode too.
Yeah.
We can get the Call of Cthulhu, the Chaosium one, and maybe see how that works out. It'd be pretty cool. We just have to come up with a cool theme. How we can do that. One of the things I had asked out there on Facebook was character moment stuff, things that people may have liked. I mentioned the Go Paylor thing. One of the things that was mentioned for Mickey was, I don't know if you character Nestless, always wanting to get new footwear. It was like you talking about footwear as Mickey talking about it for her character as well. It was, I think the comment was about third person talking about needing new footwear.
New shoes.
New
Mama needs
shoes.
new shoes.
Yeah. That was a good one. Bridget, my wife, she mentioned the shoot 'em in the knee. That's one of her favorite lines.
That was Brie Longbottom
Yeah.
from the 5th edition starter set.
Who was it? Nestless and Strahd?
No,
No, who was
That was the
Not
start of the
Noctra.
Nestless was with Troop.
Yeah, the Dungeon Rules.
Yeah, who was your character in
Noctra.
Strahd? Noctra, yeah, who had all for the first half had all the one-liners.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That
then
was
she
my
lost the
attempt
the cheese
at
and
playing Lawful Good. It didn't work out.
And that when that
You should never play
Yeah.
Lawful Good again.
I can't.
when that
It's
one
not
was
in my
going
nature.
on, I think there was a comment when that one was going on. Maybe it was on Facebook, but it was about how the the hippopotamus in the tree. Yeah.
'Cause they're good at hiding.
And that it cracked me up at the time too. But yeah, that I remember that one. That one showed up on Facebook as a comment.
Good
That was
stealth
pretty
rolls.
Good stuff.
So I know we don't have a really clear memory. I don't think any of us really do. But what else did we do this year? So we went through Strahd. Strahd was a big part of the year. We talked a little bit about it. Any other memorable moments from Strahd? I don't. It was just mentioned as far as
Yeah, for
almost
me,
comedic,
like,
but little things in
that
there.
thing at the Abbey.
Yeah.
I mean, oh man, I can't remember the guy's name. The angel that was like, what? He's crazy.
He was the
He's-
Abbey.
he's-
Abbey.
He was the
Yeah,
Abbey
just the
player.
Abbey. Like the way he talked about like his Frankenstein bride.
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
thing was like. But he was just so a matter of fact about it.
Yeah,
And
he thought he was in
creep
the right.
factor went through the roof, and I thought that was well played.
Yeah. And there was the half bat, half man or something. It was Batman.
Yeah, the mongrel people
Yeah.
going on there.
The mongrel folk, yep.
We went by the
Awesome.
nice cages.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was pretty.
I like starting with the Taroka card reading fairly early.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
thought
cool.
that gave a cool
Yeah.
frame to the adventure, and then I love the final battle, working up the staircase with me flying. I actually enjoyed. I thought the pacing on that was really good, and I enjoyed it.
And you've read the book, and you know that the final battle is not like that. That was
Right.
neat.
Right? Yeah. No, I like that last combat.
Cool.
I liked the beginning of it. I liked when we first entered the world and just starting to discover.
Oh, the nondescript tavern, the nondescript land.
Well, that's a great way to start it. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a plot hook,
Yeah.
do it tongue in cheek.
The first walk to whatever that first village is when you got like the creepy hag.
The creepy,
who's, like-
yeah, exactly. The hag and found
There
out
was
about
the
girl who
crying
was-
Mary, right?
crying Mary. Her daughter was abducted. That was it was really creepy for me, and I think that's what kind of turned it because it was so creepy. I like intentionally.
Baker, no, we're not open. Bam! Yes, you are.
You are now.
She kicked the crap out of that door. Derek here
Burn it
on
down.
YouTube also mentioned Fireball the Shack, which is a comment that does come up regularly.
Yeah, that's from back in the
It's a
day.
meme among us now.
It
I
is.
think.
It goes back to
You shoot
Mike,
first.
who used to be on the podcast. We came up against a shack in the woods, and what was it, like 15 crossbowmen aiming at him, and he just fireballed the shack.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, it's a
how you
meme
do it.
now. It's
So
like a
shoot
fireball the
first, ask
shack.
questions later.
Oh, Kurt,
That's-
Derek's asking for an impression or impersonation. I can never remember what the right
You
one
gotta
is.
do the Boston one.
The potted plant.
Flower.
He's
Oh, the
asking the
flower?
potted plant.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me? I'm a flower again? Jesus Christ, motherfucker. How many times am I going to roll this goddamn 96? Or whatever the number was that turned me into a flower. There's 100 things on this table. I mean, I could be a sheep. I could get muscles like He-Man. I could have 14 virgin and potted plants.
Cheap ones, and they're blue ones.
Third blue.
These are blue ones.
That's right.
A blue potted sheep.
That was the battle with the revenue guy.
And honestly, I think that was the humor. That could have been the comedic relief that
Yeah.
Strahd needed, having the wild magic
Roll on the
sorcerer.
wild magic
It's
table.
really hard to swing a great sword when you're a plant.
The little line you can't take.
I mean,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm so huge. I just get a little line. I mean, I got a pedal here, and I look so cute, but I'm really a bastard inside.
All right.
The heart of a Venus flytrap.
I got excited moving around there and almost knocked the cable.
Don't touch.
Don't even talk about the cable.
Where's the kid?
Don't look at the cable.
It's like the equivalent of having one hand on Joe's balls underneath the table.
Whoa, hold on. That wasn't you?
Everybody
The
hands on
camera,
the table.
like, doing this now.
I think we're good. The clock is still in about the same position.
Why take
Just
it?
grab your pants.
Want me to grab your monster, do ya?
Yeah, so that's cool.
I will say, so I think Troop was still in this year. The end of the campaign with Troop was.
That's a good point. I didn't bring up the episode list. For anyone who actually has the podcast on their phones and you can look at the feed, you can actually go back and look at these.
Well, regardless, the point I wanted to make was, I played Troop, who started as a monk and then added some druid stuff in, but because I was really, into karate. But it was a good example of playing a class I would never have picked otherwise. Like unarmed combat just doesn't seem particularly interesting in the world. But I really enjoyed that class and the mechanics of the monk. So urge people to try, playing a different character class or different race than you played before.
You
It's
never
fun.
know what you're going to actually have fun with.
Yeah, like I would play a monk again for sure. And it was at the bottom of the list of things that I thought I would want to play.
And would you want to play a potted plant again?
No.
No. Just,
Like a group character.
yeah.
Arms.
But Groot is like the strong silent type. And I'm like, if I gotta talk, I just can't shut up.
And I was thinking that while you were doing the impression again, the whole time we're thinking of a small potted plant, but you could have been like a 20-gallon potted plant.
I guess
Still
so. I could have been a
Oh,
cactus.
feed me, Seymour.
Cactus.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Throw me at him! Throw me at him!
That's right. Let me have him. Sitting in the corner like, are you kidding me? Another round? What am I gonna do here?
Spring leaves at him.
Ficus.
Fuck, you look like a ficus. Come hug me, I'm a cactus.
I need very little light. I'm an indoor plant.
But I grow aggressively.
I'll make you do it again. I like
I
that. You did
grow aggressively.
nice voice. I don't know. Hairdresser from the Northeast.
Smokes a lot. Smokes a lot.
There was a little friend.
Hours. A wild magic
That's
table.
crazy,
And I
yeah.
It's a D100, and I got that twice.
You got it 3 times.
I'm trying to remember out of the whole time. There's only like 1 or 2 beneficial rolls. You had some neutral stuff.
Right, and
But there was
statistically,
very
there's a 2 in
little.
3 chance of getting something that's either neutral or helps you. And I ended up a sheep and a plant.
You have a rare gift.
Didn't you also spend some time in a different plane?
I
Like the
did.
astral plane?
Yes.
A little bit.
That one was a bummer.
Oops.
It's literally like, hey, just take a half an hour off and don't do anything else.
Take a break.
The first episode for the year, the January 1st episode, was the Star Trek.
Oh,
Part two of Star Trek.
Hey.
we
Started
did,
that.
we did
Started
that Star
at the
Trek
end of last
Adventures
year.
one. Yeah.
That's one I'd like to also revisit. Thank you for
Yeah?
reminding me.
I can
They're
honestly
actually
say I
live now.
Never anything about it.
The game is live. We
We gotta
played
figure
the.
out, like, there's like some disease on the planet.
You guys,
Yeah.
the shuttle crash landed on the planet. There was
Oh, the
toxic
poisonous plants.
stuff all over. Yeah,
Poisonous plants.
Yeah.
And you were beta testing something, right?
that was for that system, Star Trek Adventures, and it is out now as an actual system.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a mental block against Star Trek because I'm a Star Wars guy. So
Yeah.
You,
Oh,
a
there's another
person
one.
can be both.
I know they tell me you can, but it's just
I like both. More
Well,
Star
hey.
Trek than Star Wars, but
Here's one that Derek has a question here that may apply more to myself, Chris, and JJ, but of course it's good for anybody. His question is, does any of you do any major world building? I've been in the middle of building for the past month or so and was wondering if you have any pro tips. Now, no one has pro tips, but
Oh, yeah.
we can give you.
We can totally give you amateur tips.
I would say, Derek, if you've got a moment to throw out maybe a couple of, maybe for me at least, important information about the world, like is this a medieval fantasy world, is it a modern world, what have you. But yeah, we can, Chris, you want to give a couple ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit easier if you're using something that's based off like something that's already written, like the Greyhawk stuff. You know, done a ton of things off of that.
Hey, Dresden files.
Yeah, how they're not really listed in the game. Or for Greyhawk, for example, for D&D, I've taken factions from multiple settings like Eberron or Corvair. It doesn't matter. But for straight up building from nothing, like the little D&D thing I did, with the starter set characters was all from scratch. And I guess you just kind of have to pick, start small, man. Just have like a small group that's doing something bad and start throwing some NPCs that could either help or hinder the group. And they can even change later on. They might help them at first, and later on they change their minds and want to get in the way.
right. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, just keep it kind of simple. I mean, you don't have to get crazy because you kind of let the characters, they're going to be paranoid enough and start wondering what's going on, and they'll give you ideas to flesh things out later. So you don't always have to finish like this huge world right now. Maybe just a couple places and a couple people that might, be in control of those spots, and maybe some people that can test those. Nothing.
World building, or are you writing an adventure? Because those are totally different things.
Yeah, that's a good
If
point.
you want to write an adventure, say, basically write a great small town and don't worry about anything else.
Yep.
Maybe have a sense that there are mountains here and a sea there, but write a great town. You can play in that town for 6 months or a year, and then the characters are going to decide which way they want to go, and then you build the world as you go. And if you build a whole world for your adventure, your characters aren't going to be interested in 7/8 of what you're interested in, and so you've wasted your time. Now, having said that, if you as a hobby want to build a world, then what you're doing is you're moving closer to what a novelist would do, and that's awesome. But don't confuse it with creating a...
And don't get upset with the characters when they never explore that part of your world.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now if you want to build a world, then different people have different interests. Some people would start with essentially the cartography and getting the mountains and the rivers and the coasts and building the world physically, and then first, or different rulers who are in conflict. You can come at that different ways, but if you're just doing that as a hobby, it's really more like a novelist. What's the story you want to tell, and what does the world look like? But most GMs would say, if you're doing this for a group, don't be Tolkien. Be the guy who creates, Sandpoint or or whatever, and do a great job on that, and then build as you go.
And just to ask, shouldn't you also start with like the basics? Like, how does your world interact with your characters, and how will your characters interact with the world, and kind of thinking about that. Like, if you want magic in the world, how does magic work? Where does it come from?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you probably need one or two sources of conflict to start, but it doesn't.
And I was actually going to talk about that because, like Chris was mentioning, the abbot is an interesting character because he's a ambiguous bad guy.
Yes.
Like, try to have your BBEG, your big bad end guy. Try to have contrary to societies, but they're not essentially evil.
Mm-hmm.
Have them be ambiguous in a way, because those are the memorable people.
Right. Well, and from an adventure standpoint, your big bad guy, you may not see for years and years. You know, you don't, if you're making a game, you don't start with the players fighting Sauron in year one. You don't even start with them fighting Saruman in year one. You start with them fighting like the little tyrant in their village who's stealing money from the merchants. And then eventually maybe they fight a goblin, you know, king outside of town, and then maybe a baby dragon. And, you know,
But those should all be peons of the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's a way to introduce the big bad. But to your point, like your characters need to grow up to the big bad. So as they gain experience, it's a whole concept of experience. And experience, the core to
Yeah, because they're not even on the radar of the big bad, you know,
Yeah.
little guys.
But
I mean,
they,
that's what's Strahd.
yeah, but whomever they go after needs to be.
So Derek answered here, it's medieval fantasy, and his biggest concern is going to be geography. He wants to know if anyone will really care how much of geography makes sense. And so what I think what he's saying here is, what Kurt, to your point, there's mountains on this side, there's sea on this side. If you put these things too close together on our Earth, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless it's a volcano in the middle of the ocean or what, you know. So in my opinion, at least in my experience, nobody really cares if the geography makes sense because you can just say a wizard did it. Right. It's pretty straightforward. In medieval fantasy,
Yeah,
I mean, the wizard's castle is hovering above the ground. Is it really that hard to believe that there's a mountain next to the ocean? Probably not. So people shouldn't care from that perspective. Now, I was answering him there. I was just going to mention, too, when we started the one game with Kevin, Red Shirt Kevin, and he was playing the Bard, Havoc, that was... it was world building in the sense of the way Kurt mentioned. It was an adventure building. I did from the ground up. I want to just mention with this adventure, yay! But we started with helping the guy with the spiders in the basement, and this was level 1, going down and helping and getting rid of giant spiders in the basement, and that's what we could do. And after that, it moved on to some skeletons, and then after that, it moved on to some wights, and we gradually progressed. But everything from the beginning, that poisoning, and that's where the spiders were, that was part of the big bad end guy.
The machinations of the big bad end guy, yeah.
So that one was created from the beginning, and one of the things Kurt mentioned was once your players get interested in an area, they help flesh it out. So as we went to his hometown, whose hometown was that now? The Troop's hometown.
Yeah.
Well, as we went there, Kurt, and for anyone who didn't ever get this, Truk is Kurt backwards, which, you know, he helped flesh out the whole town. How many people lived there? How many kids are around? Because they were, you know, they were abducting the kids. That's the word of it, kidnapping. That works as well. Yeah.
Why? Because that's really when you get to the point of, you know, is geography gonna matter? There's a reason that character's asking that question.
Yes.
So explore it.
well, and that campaign was fun because you gave each of us a highlight for multiple episodes, and it had us help build that area. Like the Egyptian land, JJ helped build, and I had Troop's monastery land. You know, on the cartography, I've heard it said that the only thing that matters is make sure your rivers run the right way. Do not run from the sea uphill, unless you specifically want to have a magician doing that for some reason. If you are interested in world building, there's a couple of podcasts that I really like that are not actual play, but they talk about gaming. The Tome Show is one, and then James Intercasso was a host on there who spun off and created his own podcast network called Don't Split the Podcast, and his Tabletop Babble is his show on there. If you just search those two podcasts and look at the episodes that are on world building, they have Wolfgang's top on there, but then they also have people like us who want to build worlds, and they talk about this stuff, and I think you find some value in those. Plus, they're just really well done podcasts.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's good.
And I would also say tailor it to your group. Like here in this at this table specifically, I don't think any of us as players care about the minutia. Like I appreciate that Joe says you have 5 things in your adventurer's pack.
Yeah.
You need a rope, check it off.
Yeah.
Like I never understood the GM who said that, you know, oh, you don't have a lance? Oh, I'm sorry, you can't climb that thing, or you don't have a grappling hook? I'm sorry. like
You had 50 feet of rope, but you used 42 feet of it. So you
Tiny
only have
guy.
8 feet.
Well,
now.
we don't worry about weight.
Yeah.
We don't count gold generally. We're pretty we're pretty loosey goosey.
Yeah.
It helps move the story along.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
also don't want to add something that's so ridiculous that it's
Yeah.
going to completely unbalance.
Treasure, to me, that like the master chest somewhere, you're probably going to be able to pick it up. But I've used an example before. One of the games I was running, the group went into the bad guy's lair, and there was this enchanted iron stove that just made food, and they wanted it. I'm like, it weighs more than all of you put together. No, you can't just pick it up and walk out with it. And they were just pissed that they just couldn't have that thing now. Like,
When I
no.
read the D&D hardbound adventures, they're always saying things in there like, there are a couple of, small throne-like chairs that are worth 250 gold piece each. And I'm like, what are you going to do with metal chairs? I mean,
Yeah.
but if everyone has a bag of holding, can you put the chairs in
no,
there?
man, Tetris floating disc all the way.
So,
Oh,
I mean, I was like, are people like, why are you giving me that detail? So is that what people do?
There are people who enjoy the minutia.
yes.
Um,
It could
Because it
also-
feels bad because I feel bad leaving that there. I'm like, man, that was 500 gold I could have used for something, but what are you supposed to do?
So you get some hire some porters, carry.
For a character, like take for example the Dungeon World series. So you tell me there's this major throne or chair in there. I'm gonna flip over it or try to knock it over onto someone or.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true.
Or say at the end of the adventure, you see what looks like gems in the
And you
eyes
try
of
to
this thing.
pry it out.
Yeah, and the whole thing
blows up.
collapses.
And then you just stand there like, at least I got my gem.
Yeah. So we have another question here, and I'm going to say, who wants to go first? And I'm not going to tell you what the question
I'll
is.
go first.
JJ.
I got
all right.
this.
We're going to start with JJ, and then we're going to go around clockwise.
And the question is, what does it feel like to wear women's panties?
Yeah.
Caressing. That's one word.
It's not as supportive as you might think. What is your favorite system?
What is my favorite system? In which aspect? That's it's just a multifaceted answer. My
let's
favorite system.
let's do it this way, two-pronged then. If you've run a game,
Favorite one to run is by far 4th edition.
Okay.
Favorite one to play, and don't have to say Dresden Files Accelerated.
cool.
Wow.
What do you think, Kurt?
I really struggled between Dungeon World and 5e. I would say if I had to just play one for the rest of my life, I would play D&D 5th edition. But I really like the narrative drive of Dungeon World, and I think I would like running Dungeon World.
Cool.
I'm not as drawn. I love the world in Pathfinder, but I'm not as drawn to the rules heavy. Add 3 or 4 multipliers to every roll type system.
Yeah, because it just adds up fast, literally and metaphorically. Chris?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I might have to go with your answer, Kurt, because I mean, D&D's always been there for me. It's where I started, and it's awesome. I'm used to it. But Dungeon World, the simplification of things and how it works, I really like how it works out.
Yeah, things I feel like if I could combine 5e and or bring some of the narrative aspects of Dungeon World into 5th edition. Although I really like 5e, I'm pretty happy with the system.
Yeah, because they have simplified it over the years too with that, but I really like how the combat works in Dungeon World, where, okay, D&D, I get 2 attacks. All right, I slash. Dungeon World, I grab him, I knee him, I elbow him, I stab him, like that's one of that. It's awesome. You can just whatever you want to describe it.
Well, it's funny because the main thing I don't like about D&D, some of the key people in D&D don't like because they keep trying to come up with ways around it. But I don't like the set initiative system.
Yeah.
And what I really like about Dungeon World is when you just look across and say, okay, what is Mickey, what's your character doing? JJ, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you just weave it into how combat would actually work, which is all of us doing things at once. And I was listening to Mike Merle's talk recently about a modified initiative system where the initiative in D&D changes each round.
Mhm.
And I like that as, with the idea that we roll initiative once and for the next 15 turns, we go in the same order. I don't like.
The biggest reason I think, traditionally that it doesn't happen is it adds that much more time to every beginning of round.
Yeah.
And if you're already in a time-intensive combat system and you want to add another 2 minutes onto every round, it can start to get a little much.
It does. but it also lets you gamify combat in a way that if I know I'm always coming behind JJ, and we can set up combos and things in a way that are not realistic to what would probably happen over and over and over in
Yeah,
combat.
just be a mess, real fighting is chaotic.
Yeah.
So I think for me, my answer is probably Dungeon World.
Yeah, you're definitely
Anyone who's listened enough, that's probably it. I am enjoying the accelerated version of Dresden Files. The original one, the full system there, like we've talked about before, it just got to the point where we were sitting one night, we were at myself, I was at JJ and Mickey's place, and we were going through the rule book and like, yeah, we got this, we got some magic. So there's no way
how to create a cheat sheet for everybody else to
Yeah.
understand it without them themselves doing a deep dive into the rules.
It's like with that first book, we could show that next to the other book. You could see the difference because the other book's right there on the shelf, that top one.
So
but we were going through it and I was like, hey, I could just play a regular mortal that can do some stunts. And all that's great. But then, of course, everyone wants to play wizard, Dresden. And we got to the magic and it was like, if you want to do magic, blah, 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 algebra. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Quadratic equations.
Yeah, it just threw me way
I'm
out.
curious.
So before we finish, before we do that, let's finish up with Ricky.
Now I want to go back to Dresden.
Yeah.
Mine's easy, 5e.
I think you like that.
5e, simply because it gives me the combat from 4th edition without having to remember all of the different
Yeah.
attacks.
And I want to say again, I've said it 20 times on here, but the starter set for 5th edition, that adventure is good. If you get the starter, it's retail, $13 on Amazon.
Yep.
Awesome.
And I was going to mention that too. My favorite part of 5e is those first 5 levels, which can get monotonous if you keep doing it over and over and over, because then you don't have a lot of different stuff to work with for some characters. But that is where I think the game shines. The system shines the best is early on.
So in Dresden, I was intrigued to hear you say that. Are you saying that you like the system, or is it just because you like that world so much?
I like the system. I think that in this one, it gives enough of the dungeon world aspects, but while still having the rules behind it.
Mhm.
Like the fact that your character can change at a minor milestone, you can add a aspect, and it's with Dungeon World. I feel it's almost like the DM is the conductor. You know, he's like saying, okay, now you need to step up and do something. With Dresden Files, though, I feel like you need to almost every situation go, what would my guy do?
See, it's funny because I think that Dresden Accelerated is basically Fate Core, which I've read Fate Core and now I've read Dresden Accelerated, and I don't like the system instinctively because I feel like it's making explicit a lot of what when we're playing well we're doing already. I do think you're right that the DM is to some extent orchestrating in Dungeon World, but when we're playing our characters well, I think when you said, so what is your character doing?
Yeah.
We're essentially describing our aspect and our character and what he would be doing without saying, well, now I invoke this aspect and I use this.
And for me, at least, when it comes to that, I usually will only pick on someone if they haven't done anything recently. Otherwise, people are jumping in anyway.
And I'm not criticizing you at all. I'm just, I'm having read it twice, I have a hard time instinctively getting the Fate Core system for some
So
reason.
you and I talked about that
Just
before.
doesn't click with me the way that some of the other things that I read, even if they were more complicated, do click.
Game players on podcast a bit. Don't you think that the accelerated system kind of gives you a bit of a crutch? It gives you some clues to go with. So for that person who may not be comfortable
Absolutely.
with role playing, if you've got it out on a sheet and say, okay, this aspect does this, and it makes you think about.
Absolutely. And like when I was playing Teelan, it would have been great if Joe, if I'd had aspects that I had to invoke or for JJ, because it kind of can force
It
you
would
back
bring
into
you
that
back into
Exactly.
the.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I'm definitely not telling people not to play Fate. I mean, tons and tons of people love Fate and love Dresden. I'm just saying, for me, I'm enjoying the story that we're crafting, and I'm enjoying the Dresden skin that we've got on it, and I'm having fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not having fun because of the system, I don't think.
understand
What I do
that.
like about it that we've done multiple times, and I don't know if it's part of the system or just you, but we did it on episode where we went in the haunted
Character
house.
building.
Is that kind of when beforehand we figure out to each other, like,
For me at least, that's something I did at the beginning of a lot of the Dungeon War games. We just haven't played that in a while, but that was written on the one shot. That was written in there. The questions were there. I wrote up all the stuff for the game that we started here.
the first time I thought
I like
it was
to do
really explicit was it Dresden Files when we did kind of the haunted house?
That
That was the Dresden Files,
Yeah.
the full rule book.
Yeah, the 10 questions or whatever that you went through on that was really good.
And that's from the Our World book, right?
No, that
is
was
this a game?
specifically with the that was specifically with the published adventures.
Okay.
It was right at, I don't know, page 2, I think. The first page gave you a little background. Page 2 was, here are some questions you can ask the players. I chose to go through just about all of them because the way the characters you guys picked and how you started talking about them, it made sense.
Yeah.
But then when we started the current game, I wrote those questions for the same reason. You guys had some choices of characters. I thought it would be a good thing. Like I asked one who doesn't keep up with current events. Gosh. Yeah, he chose that. So we have some of that in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fact that all the players build the world. You know, that's the GMing it.
I like that too, because it's less work for me.
Well, I mean,
But it works, yeah.
You know, everybody's more involved, and then because I mean, you gotta have a little bit of care like what your character's gonna do and what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
Also gives you more control, I think, as a
Yeah.
player, because then you can invoke like
You're more
different
invested.
aspects from
Yeah.
the area. Like, okay, I know that there's a gas station down the street here, so I'm gonna go
Right.
run over and use the phone.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't have to ask, especially when you're using your area, your hometown, you don't have to ask the GM, okay, what's nearby?
Mm-hmm. Especially because I might not know.
Exactly.
To make
Whenever-
his point, though, one of the things in this system, we talk about aspects. One of the things in the system is now you've just invoked the aspect of like convenience store nearby. Use that. You can ask convenience store nearby. Kurt's character can go and get a quart of oil if he wants or something, and use that as part of some magic thing.
This year was when I did the one shot, the spy adventure.
Oh, yeah.
And even though you guys didn't necessarily know the places, I used a place in Germany I knew, San Francisco, which I knew, and a neighborhood in New York that I knew. So at least when I was spinning it, I could, without having to think too much, say, oh yeah, this works, this works, this works.
The biggest part I remember about your knowledge of the geography you used was we spun some corner past a warehouse where they filmed kink.com.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, that's Kurt.
Yeah, and I knew it well.
I thought that was better because you said like, well, I could use Berlin or something. I've never been there. Somebody used Heidelberg because I've been there. That was awesome, man. You could take us through the streets like this is how it looks.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of if they were the right pictures or not, based on the maps you had, I was picturing in my head that, we're careening down the street next to this river, and it's like that. You be able to develop that picture because you're able to describe something that you were at.
The world and our files is, we all know the state of South Carolina, our listeners don't, so we have to give them that picture and have it not just be kind of a generic place.
We should write a note to ourselves to continue to do that, because we'll forget.
Well, I think we've done a little bit of that so far. Like we've mentioned that
The inn we're at now,
the Gold's Gym and what have
we're
you.
Gold's but we're now at that inn.
Not the inn, the event location. What was the name of it? You picked it, Kurt. Where people can host events.
Zan?
No.
Is
You're
it
the one that
in
picked
town?
Son, dude.
So we
I
went
don't
there.
remember going
We
there.
went there.
We're here in the Sniper Roost.
Yeah, you went to Case the Joint.
Oh, yeah, the Rutherford.
The Rutherford,
Rutherford, yeah.
yes. So when we say something like that, we tell them as we're playing, go look up the Rutherford. Get an idea of where we are because Mickey usually has an iPad or something. We put that where we can see it. Do a quick, just regular Google Map search or whatever type of GPS search you want. You can find it and get an idea of right where we are. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Yeah.
That
Our
helps.
resources. Cops are this far away, so we have to get out before they come up.
Yeah.
What's your response time for your PD? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
2 hours and 3 minutes.
Depends on where you are. That's if you're next to the station. So, well, we've got a few minutes left.
You want to mention any of the games I mentioned in the?
That's what I was going to say. Did anybody who happen to remember or look at the Facebook post?
I know the ones
We
that
had
I
a
mentioned
few.
before was the time loop one.
The time loop. Yeah, Anders mentioned that. And Anders, if you, sorry you didn't join us, but good to see you watching us, maybe.
Thank
some
you
point.
Later.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. He's a faithful listener.
Oh, heck
Here in
yeah.
Leisure. Yeah, which was kind of based on the whole, 80s ET and Stranger Things kind of like, world, but yeah, they kind of did the whole, I can't remember the name of the thing. It's based in, I think, Sweden originally, and they have a U.S. setting. It's going to be in Nevada someplace, which I don't know if they've finished that one yet. But it's it's got that late '80s background, but the tech is up higher than it should be with like these different kind of like rogue robots and strange creatures and things like that.
Is this a system or a skin of a system?
No, it's a game. I can't remember. It's based off something else, some mutants. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a Kickstarter. I'm not even sure if it's completely done yet. But
Mutants
like,
and Masterminds.
but no, it's some other game, and I think that's even based maybe in Sweden. Like I think Anders even mentioned it close to where he is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the idea of it, the whole late '80s, backdrop where you're playing with teenagers. That like if you ever saw Stranger Things, it's kind of like in that vein. Which I thought was really cool.
As Derek mentions here that he remembers JJ not liking the Star Wars system, and I want to say I think it wasn't necessarily a Star Wars system. I think
it was just the grenade.
We did not like we didn't like the way the adventure turned out.
The starter set event.
But yeah, we have all talked about either maybe on the air, but at least here in the shed that we want to try the Star Wars RPG.
Yeah, I would love to do that. There's three different. There's Edge of Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny, all in the Star Wars universe, but focusing on different aspects. And I'd even like to try the Edge of Empire starter set as a one-shot, because I think the system and the dice and everything is cool. It's just, man, there were a couple big flaws in that starter.
Yeah.
I mean, the grenade basically level set everything.
It was
Yeah, and that chase at the end and the speeder bikes.
You had to get there by a certain time, but they didn't tell you how long anything took.
Yeah, but the
And
system,
how anything
the
worked.
system's cool. And
Yeah.
Edge of Empire is like, you're out on the fringes of the galaxy, lots of smugglers, bounty hunters. You're not involved with the Jedi at all. Age of Rebellion is the Luke Skywalker period, and then Force and Destiny is when you get to play Jedi or Sith and have Force powers and everything. And I think we'd have fun with Edge of Empire being like rogues and scoundrels.
It does come out this December.
Well,
I mean, it's not Christmas Star Wars with the Wookiees and
Christmas in the stars, Christmas in the stars. What a Merry Christmas this will be.
Thank you, Kurt.
It includes my favorite song. What can you get, or what do you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? You remember that one?
No.
I'd be happy to sing it for y'all, but
No, you would be the only one that would be
the
happy.
answer, just in case you're wondering, is that you get him love and understanding and goodwill for man, and then you wrap it all up in a bright colored ribbon and you give it to him all over again.
Aww.
He doesn't wear galoshes.
Does he forget about the comb
and he
after
doesn't
that?
need
Like,
shaving
I'm just
foam.
astounded at the
Watching.
level of
So-
detail.
Now he doesn't remember the last character he played.
Of course not.
No.
He knows all the words.
As an
to the
aside, every Christmas, this is my
Yeah.
favorite Christmas album. I have it on vinyl, I have it on CD, and I get to like fight with my wife every year about whether we play Frank Sinatra's Christmas or Christmas in the Stars.
Christmas in the
And of course, the children are on my side. It's awesome. That, and if it stinks, then we'll write out Star Wars forever.
Yeah. Now I'm
Just
really
like
tempted.
RPG games.
I'm really tempted to get the core rule book because then you play wherever you want, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, but there's
It-
three
there's-
different core rule books.
but the first one, I can't remember which one it was. They came out with the core rule book, but then they did the others. I don't know enough about it to speak any more than that. But I think for me, the starter sets help us out a huge amount in here because we're able then to have character sheets. I thought the character sheets for the starter set for Age of Rebellion were awesome. They're
Yeah.
full color portfolios of the character with the right colored dice
The
and
maps were
everything.
good.
The maps. I really like the quality of the starter sets. Definitely, I would want to do another starter set of that so we can jump right into it.
Plus, we
His
paid about
character-
$12 for the dice.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, we have that.
Yeah, pull that
Um,
again.
yeah. I think that's a good idea. Unless, what could be kind of neat, and then I know we might want to play the starter adventure, but if we use like Edge of Empire rules and smugglers and bounty hunters and what have you. If we had an adventure for that where you're practically ghost hunters, that could be cool as a Halloween episode too.
Oh, there's a cable down here.
Yeah, watch out for that cable.
I'm making your husband very nervous.
My wife just decided to say hi.
Jack knocks
Oh
the
my
cable off.
God.
This is not me.
He can't
Jack
get rid of
attack!
that cable.
Jack.
So we're, I think we just covered that. So Star Wars, I don't think anybody disliked the system as we learned it.
No.
We just disliked the adventure that we were playing. So I think we want to get back to that one.
Yeah,
What
just
not?
not to beat a dead horse, but like it's a starter set short adventure, and there were empty rooms with nothing in them.
Yeah.
Remember? It was
odd.
just weird. It was weird.
There
They
was
ran out of time.
the
and
map.
stuff, right?
The map itself, the player side of the map, I want to say had like maybe 16 rooms. The GM side had descriptions for 4.
Right.
So it's like, don't put in a description say that's like crew quarters or something. There was just nothing. It was odd. Chris, was there any other, or anybody else remember any of the?
Yeah, then we've
mentioned
mentioned
Time
Time Loop, we've mentioned the Dragon Age, we've
Yep.
mentioned Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah, play that
trying to see. I thought somebody else had another. No, I guess it was the Dragon Age.
Okay.
I know a guy mentioned if you come up with any, your own game.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. Well, at some point we may actually try to play a homebrew game other than that Halloween episode thing that
Yeah.
we did, because I kind of made that up as we went. Turned out we were playing Trail of Cthulhu. I just didn't know it. I mean, that's really what it was. What I wrote with the clues, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get to move forward. I hadn't even seen the game yet, and it turns out that's what we played. So apparently I like that system too.
It's Tales from the Loop. I was calling it Time Loop. So I
Oh.
apologize for that.
Andrews probably is going to comment on that, Chris. Horrible.
He's written me off already.
You're fired.
So hey, here we are. We're about to finish up our 3rd anniversary. Thanks, Shiny.
I did shave today, so probably.
Between you and Chris, yeah.
You've got the light on you, JJ.
Yeah, I have over here a brighter screen too, and I think right now JJ's got the shininess.
You got the
covered.
shininess.
Yeah, I think JJ's got it there. Now, that's not to say Chris doesn't have a shiny head. Yeah.
So, hey, for those of you, even if you're not on here live, but listen to this later, we appreciate you as listeners and
Oh, yeah.
followers.
Yeah.
You know, we would play anyways, but it's particularly fun to have people comment and follow along.
I'd love to have people
Blast.
throw out ideas for us to input into a different adventure. You know,
Or even
I want
character
ideas for
ideas.
characters.
Yeah, a character, or just one idea, or just like even like an idea for a faction, something could just.
Yeah, Derek, help me get back on track with my characters.
Yeah, Derek.
If you literally throw something out that is even mildly possible or reasonably possible, I will do my best to make it happen.
We should do that. We should do a post. Like, give us character ideas, personality ideas.
You
quirks.
decide our next character. You
You-
decide our adventure.
You
Yeah.
decide.
Even if it's an empty.
Yes, that is up front. It's
Yeah.
a great piece. He also mentioned he doesn't like steampunk, but he enjoyed that system. That would be Idara.
Adara.
I think we had a blast playing that, and at some point we're actually going to get the Traveler's Guide to Idara, which was a campaign setting but not the rules. So we can actually take that steampunk world campaign setting and play it with a different rule set if we want to.
I was a dwarf with a shotgun and a dragon. What's not to
Sounds
like about
an
that?
Adam with a wooden leg.
And
Come
a,
on.
and a sniper.
Wooden
attack.
sniper.
That's pretty
Artillery.
cool. Actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
I think I was an armored something or other.
You're the tank.
Yeah, you were the tank.
I was a tank, but I was
Mike was a
You were like
punchy
a,
thing.
you were like a construct of some kind, weren't you?
I don't remember. It was given to us by the Adara people. I played
Yeah.
the character that they pre-gen for me.
When they were doing their Kickstarter, we asked their fan base, I think it was on Reddit, to give us character ideas, and they actually created the characters. Hey, Jack.
Jack, buddy.
All right, so hey, let's wrap up our live stream. Now let's try waiting again. Hi everybody. Hi everybody. And hey, like Kurt said, thank you for being a part of Adventures from the Shed.
Yes, sir.
It's not an adventure without you.
I think I'll just stop it there.
Stop it.
Thank you.
Sure.